Highly visible young conservative leader gunned down. K through 12 education is failing America. Follow the money is a very appropriate phrase with regard to the RFK Jr. Senate hearing recently. This is Dr. David D. Schein for Saving America with my own take on key stories from this past week focused on politics and business. And as usual, I have more stories than there is time. Israel strikes in Doha to take out the Hamas so-called leaders. Of course, anyone representing Hamas is a terrorist. This is fascinating as the government of Qatar allows the top brass of this terrorist enterprise to hang out in luxury in their country. The official report from Israel is that 5 Hamas terrorists were taken out. Israel has also indicated that the USA was not involved in any way, but was probably advised that it was going to happen. Israel indicated the reason for the Doha bombing was that 6 Israelis were killed by Palestinian gunmen near Jerusalem the day before, simply waiting for a bus. Hamas's Al-Qassam brigade claimed responsibility for that attack. Yes, the terrorists are proud of killing innocent civilians. I underscore that Israel did the right thing here. The only thing terrorists understand is death. I note that Doha bombing was widely covered by the slopstream media, but they did not cover the death of the 6 Israelis the day before. Drug dealers' fast boat blown up. Speaking of pathetic coverage by the slopstream media, they made it sound like they were sympathetic to the crew on the boat that was blown up. The boat reportedly, according to the federal government, was carrying 11 members of the TDA terrorist group trying to smuggle illegal drugs into the USA. A recent guest on this show was Stephen Bryan, a military expert who commented that the normal crew for a small boat like this is 3 or 4. He suggested that such a large crew may have indicated that this group of terrorists had more in mind than just dealing death to Americans through these murderous illegal drugs. Keep in mind that reports are that about 100,000 Americans died each year during the Biden-Harris administration due to illegal drugs like the ones on this boat. I totally support this effort. Despite the fact that the boat was in international waters, Maduro, the brutal commie dictator of Venezuela, raised a big fuss. Instead of thanking President Trump and America for disposing of this vermin, he was complaining. A couple of Venezuelan jets buzzed the U.S. ship sitting offshore to support the interdiction effort. I recommend that if he sends them again, that these planes be shot down as this is an act of war. Time to make sure the entire world knows that America is not the patsy that the Biden-Harris administration presented to the world. A footnote to this is that Maduro subsequently claimed that his country would initiate an effort to shut down this drug dealing. I doubt this is for real, but we'll have to see. Big-time DEA bust of Sinaloa cartel members. Speaking of illegal drugs and terrorists, the DEA announced a 23-state enforcement effort to crack down on this terrorist gang distributing death throughout America. According to Fox News, there were millions of dollars worth of fentanyl, other drugs, weapons, and cash seized. In New England, 171 cartel members were arrested. I believe there was a congressional proposal to make dealing these deadly drugs in such quantities as eligible for the death penalty. Time to start invoking the death penalty for those who commit mass crimes like this. Domestic terrorism incident hidden by the slopstream media. While it made all the headlines eventually, it was hidden for about 2 weeks by the slopstream media. On August 22nd, that's right, weeks ago, the beautiful Irina Zarustuska, age only 23, was stabbed to death on a Charlotte, North Carolina commuter train. Her family came here to flee the Russian invasion in her home country, Ukraine. So fleeing to safety, she is brutally and senselessly murdered. Given the video of this horrible act of terrorism, it is unlike the D. Carlos Brown Jr. will get off. However, we have to call him the accused killer for legal reasons. Reports are that he was arrested 4 times and had been sentenced at one point to a 5-year prison stint, but served less than that. Like many criminals who have received insufficient punishment for prior acts, his crimes appear to have spiraled into more violence. The accused shooter, who is black, stabbed to death an innocent white woman who was quietly sitting in the rail car seat in front of him. Many of us conservatives feel that the slopstream media tried to hide this due to the color issue. Had the colors been reversed, it is highly likely it would have been the headline for newscasts across the country on August 22nd. The Trump Justice Department is on track, and the accused reportedly said, "I got that white girl," will be charged with a hate crime under federal law. That could lead to the death penalty. As a longtime proponent of the death penalty, I support it in this case for sure. He was on the street since he was most recently released on his own recognizance by Magistrate Judge Teresa Stokes. At least one article claimed that Stokes is also director of operations at Second Chance Services, a mental health and addiction clinic in Charlotte, North Carolina. The suggestion being that she had hoped to make the accused a customer of the clinic. I don't know how that all fits together. Hard to tell from the limited information available. Liberal judges and prosecutors have unquestionably been soft on crime, contributing to the current crime wave across the country. Highly visible young conservative leader gunned down. Continuing my coverage of terrorism in America, on September 10th, the eve of the 24th anniversary of the horrific terrorist attack on America on September 11th, 2001, conservative activist Charlie Kirk was gunned down while speaking at Utah Valley University. The founder of Turning Point was only 31 years old with a beautiful young family. He was described as a strong Christian and a true family man. His wife and children will suffer for the rest of their lives due to this unthinkable tragedy. This is, in my opinion, yet another terrorist attack in America. I did not know him personally, but at many times I saw him on TV. I agreed with his statements and positions most of the time. This has been described as a political killing, and everything that's come out since then certainly indicates that. I recently called for a toning down of the extreme hate talk, especially by the left. Left-wing comedians have joked about killing candidate and now President Trump. This cannot be tolerated even under our liberal freedom of speech laws. I repeat my demand that we start taking more action against lefties who call for the death of President Trump and other conservatives. I was in Washington, D.C. on 9/11. I was in my car in an incredible traffic jam for 4 hours on the Washington Beltway. To my left, the 5-mile-high black cloud of smoke rose from the plane that was deliberately crashed into the Pentagon. I will never forget that day. I still feel angry at those who orchestrated it and those who committed the hijacking. Even 24 years later, a lawsuit has just been allowed to proceed against the country of Saudi Arabia for its part in this massive terrorist attack on U.S. soil. Regarding the killer of Charlie Kirk, we only have preliminary information, but it does appear that, as earlier reported, that this was a politically motivated killing, which again, in my opinion, makes it a terrorist act. And I certainly call for the death penalty. On top of other bad news, new education stats have been announced that document something many of us know. K through 12 education is failing America. They tested high school seniors. They had the worst scores in reading since it was tracked starting all the way back in 1992. The math scores were the worst since 2005. Our public education is an international disgrace. This is despite the fact that we spend far more per student than any other country. The Pew Research Center provides the following sober data. The USA students are 38th out of 71 countries in math and 24th in science. When compared with our partners in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the U.S. ranks 30th in math and 19th in science. I assure you that it will not be due to lack of native smarts. We are wasting the most valuable resource we have. I will be blunt. There are multiple parties responsible. First, I fault the teachers' unions. If it was in my power, I would ban K through 12 teachers' unions. In Texas, we have a bit of a break since they cannot strike here in Texas. It is still a problem. I encourage parents with struggling students to sue the local teachers' unions for keeping their kids out of the classrooms during COVID and their woke policies. Second, parents must emphasize real education above all else. Take away the phones and iPads. Focus on reading and math. Third, multiple tracks, no matter what happens. With AI, humans must know enough to be the supervisors of the AI systems, not the flunkies repairing them. Not every child needs to go to college. However, our education system should be providing access to multiple tracks for vocational as well as college. That would make a lot of sense. Fourth, this may be unpopular in some circles, especially here in Texas, de-emphasize athletics. The pay and benefits for coaches and the loss of classroom time while students are participating in sports is out of control. While a bit out of date, the NCAA provided some examples. 1 in 168 high school baseball players will get drafted by a Major League Baseball team, and just 1 in 2,451 men's high school basketball players will get drafted by the National Basketball Association team. From communityliteracy.com, while about 1.5% of all high school players will make it into the NCAA college play, less than 0.2% will be drafted into the pros. In total, this reflects roughly only 1 in every 520 high school players will make it to the pros. At the same time, we're facing a type 2 diabetes problem in this country. So let's return to physical education in our schools. Let's encourage intramural sports and getting our kids moving. I am confident that America can fix this problem, just as I am confident that we can fix the national debt, the threat to civilization by the axis of evil, and cure cancer. For Americans, we just need to pull in the same direction. We have proved that in the past 250 years. Follow the money is a very appropriate phrase. The phrase got a good workout when the Senate recently called RFK Jr. to testify about what was happening with HHS, Health and Human Services. Specifically, a head of the agency, CDC, was only on board for a month when she was fired. The controversy involved whether she was doing the right thing and got fired, meaning it was political, or she was failing the American people. The hearing itself was a 3-hour shouting match, and there was no resolution. The most humorous part was when the failed senator from Massachusetts, Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren, went after him on COVID vaccines. But she has received almost $1 million from the pharmaceutical industry. Kennedy shoved that down her throat in a highly appropriate moment. This triggered observers to recall the famed "follow the money." I do want to note that I have mixed emotions about RFK Jr. First, he is not a health professional, and he is for certain a far left liberal in his politics. On the other hand, you often need to break some eggs to make an omelet. Banning petroleum-based colors in kids' candy makes a lot of sense. Reviewing all the vaccines being given to kids makes sense. Understanding why America did what it did during COVID and still lost over 1 million lives, and that should be understood so we never repeat it. I found this an amazing statistic. In 2021, the United States spent $4 trillion and the rest of the world just $5.8 trillion per the World Economic Forum for healthcare. Just for Medicare, Medicaid, and other federal health benefits, we spend $2 trillion a year, and yet we are not a healthy country in terms of diseases and medical care consumption of our population. Officials need to start answering for that, and now, not later. Cool story about Idaho's last video store. The story was picked up by a variety of sources, and it struck a positive chord with me as we wrap up a tough news week. The store is frequented for 15 years by a nonverbal woman with Down syndrome and her mother. She is now 35. Given the fact that it was the last video store in the whole state, pretty much tells you why it is shutting down. I fondly remember as a single parent taking my sons to the local video store here in Houston in the 1990s to pick up videos for the weekend. In this case, the store was located in Pocatello, Idaho, and I visited that town over 40 years ago. It's a beautiful and friendly place. Special effort was made by the owner, David Craning, to take care of this one daily customer of the video store. It turns out that he owned the K&B Quick Stop location next door to the video store that he is closing. So he set up a special corner of the convenience store with a collection of videos on a few shelves so this special customer could continue to follow her schedule. A Saving America shout out to him. This is Dr. David D. Schein. Thanks for joining me for this special edition of Saving America. Remember, a new Saving America show is aired on the Brushwood Media Network every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Listen on any of the 16 network stations, Apple or Google mobile app, Apple CarPlay, TuneIn, Smart Speaker, and all smart TVs. Find more information at the brushwoodmedianetwork.com. Please be sure to join us each week. We welcome and love your feedback from our growing audience.